My mother and I bought a used car in Paris and started for India, knowing that there were maps available from the Royal Automobile Club of Britain, and we drove across Europe, drove through Turkey, down into Lebanon, across Syria, into Amman, went into Amman to the Jordanian U.S. consulate and said we were going to leave now for Afghanistan, Iran and Afghanistan on our route to India. And they said, sorry, but it's not safe for you to travel. My mother and I, we were a team. We were more like two sisters than we were mother and daughter. But mother loved to travel. She wanted to travel. My father stayed home, bless his heart, and periodically we'd get a letter from him. Well, I'm glad you gals are having a good time. Do you need some more money? Not that he had any to spare. We were really very poor. My father finished the 5th grade. My mother made it through the 8th grade. Dad simply didn't have the education to enable him to earn the higher salaries that might have been available with a better schooling. But he did the best he could, and he certainly took very good care of us, and I worship him for that. Traveling in the 1950s was a wonderful time to travel. America was at its peak of power. We were beloved. We had earned the right to be the leading nation of the world. The kindness, the goodness of the American people, and the way they stepped up to the bat, as you will, to help Britain and France against Nazi Germany, and then stepped forward again with the Marshall Plan and helped to pay for the reconstruction of those areas that had been so severely damaged. You couldn't say enough that was good about America. So wherever we went, oh, you're Americans, and come in, have a cup of coffee. I can remember that in Yugoslavia when coffee was something like $20 a pound, and they made us a cup of coffee, and it was a real treat. But they couldn't do enough to be kind, and we felt very safe everywhere we went. It was just a case of being bold enough to say, I think we can do this, and if we set forth and keep our faith, we'll do it, and we did it. They were interested. They knew American men made my reputation because of the war. They knew that they were rugged, that they did things, that they were capable. They hadn't had much experience with American women. When they discovered that we were not just housewives, but that we were capable of getting out and getting maps and driving and taking pictures and doing all of these things, that was a very important issue. And they respected us for that. And later on, it was sort of interesting when I was in Pakistan when the Kinsey studies came out. And I hadn't even seen the books. I was in Pakistan. I didn't have access to the Kinsey books. And I got all kinds of questions from young men inquiring into female sexuality in America. Oh, and we were very risque, as the Kinsey reports portrayed. I've had some negative reactions to those myself because of being an American woman. But it was interesting to be overseas and see how the young men of other cultures were eyeing us as potential sex models and what have you. Interesting sidelight, but we were very well treated. A few times we were in Turkey. I remember once we went into a hotel at night, late in the afternoon, and asked for a room, and the man looked at us, and the hotel was full, so he indicated that he could make room for us. There was no other place, so he said, I'll give you my room. So he reached down, smoothed off the coverlet, reached underneath the pillow and pulled out his revolver and said, you can sleep here. So we did. I had a revolver also, but I carried one on the front seat of the car, but never showed any occasion to use it. It was just that a good friend of mine, police officer in Los Angeles, had suggested that maybe you ought to have a sidearm of your own. So I did have one, and I did know how to use it. There's an interesting story about that sidearm, however. I had it with me in Pakistan that year, and whenever we went out, I carried it under the front seat of the car. We had to have the car serviced every month because the dung from the horses on the roadways got into the wheel frame and could cause damage. So we had the car steam cleaned every month. And I always remember to take the gun out and take it home and put it in the department. But the last day that we were getting ready to leave, I took the car down to have it cleaned and neglected to remove the gun. I didn't remember that I had left it underneath the front seat of the car until I was packing and I ran across my box of ammunition. And well, and there was no hope. So I knew where it had gone. It had undoubtedly gone down into the tribal territory to a little village called Dura, which is famous as a gun works. And so the next year, I wanted to go back to Pakistan. I wanted to go and see where my students were and how they were doing. So we flew around the world. And I got into Peshawar, and I went and asked for someone to drive us down to Dura, to the gun factory. And yes, I got a car to take us down there. When I got down there, sure enough, the gun factory was famous for making British Enfield rifles and Smith & Wesson revolvers by hand. They're excellent tool makers. So what did I find that time? I found my Walther PPK, my German sidearm. I found it in the gun factory. All of them, and there were a number of them out there, they offered me one for sale. All of them had my serial number on them. How about introducing culture change?